Very much, everybody, for joining us today. For those of you that don't know, my name is Guy Jelly. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Project Portfolio Office. I'm going to present this webinar today. Well, I'm going to MC this webinar today, should I rather say. And one of my colleagues, who I think everybody knows, Taryn Lee France, will be presenting most of the content. So I'm going to take you through the session. We are going to use the Mentimeter app again near the end of the session. You can access that from your Teams, one of the icons at the top of Teams, or if you battle with that, or if you don't want to move away, menti.com, there's a code there. You can see it in the top 58786757. And as the questions come up, we'll pop through and you'll be able to answer that. That just gives us a bit of feedback. We have some surveys during the session as well as some interactivity as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. This is the last session we're having for this year. Most of my team, I presume, are here or going to be joining shortly. For those of you that have followed us closely during the year, we've had quite a busy year. I think we put our foot down beginning of this year or early last year, accelerating on the product development side. And we've had quite a busy year when it comes to the product side. So we are going to get going on that. So thank you very much for joining. I've introduced Taryn. Every quarter when we have these sessions, we do welcome some of our new clients. So we have had a couple of new clients. I don't know if any of them are joining us today on the call. Hopefully they are. Certa is a petroleum and oil company in Ireland, Wits Health Consortium out of Joburg, and then a South African-based organization, Silver Bridge, part of the Lula Group companies as well. So just some of our new clients, not all of them, but some of them that have come on board in the last quarter. We've been very fortunate at PPO, and we thank all of you, our existing clients, for all the love and joy that you give us and for helping us grow our brand and our product. One of the things that we've done this quarter as well, and maybe Taryn can share it there on her side, the website, if you've got that close by, Taryn.
I do.
So we've done quite a bit of product enhancement over the last 2 years, and those that have been PPO clients for a long time would know that, and you would have noticed that. So what you guys and girls will notice is we have a new website or a new section to the website that we've released. Aaron is just getting there quickly for us. And that's just to keep our website up to date. I mean, obviously, most of you are existing clients, and you access PPO every day and you see some of the enhancements. Hopefully, most of you are blog subscribers and you receive our blog on a Thursday when we publish that and you see all the new product news. But what we've been working hard on is these product features, and we've actually taken some time in the last quarter to update our website as well. I think this is important as well because I think a lot of organizations are not as close to PPO as maybe they could be or should be. And there's features and functionality that PPO has that they're either not aware of or haven't taken the time to activate. So just a reminder, all the existing PPO clients get all the upgrades automatically. There's only one version of software. It all runs and it's been running all the same for many, many years. But certain functionality you have to activate yourself on your own instance because it may impact the user experience. Timesheets is a feature of PPO, but I'm sure there's PPO clients out there and maybe someone on this call today that don't actually know that PPO does timesheets because that feature has never been switched on by your administrators. So I think if you get some time or if you're interested in some of the new features or you're not interacting with your success manager as much as you maybe should, visiting the website, seeing all the new stuff. A lot of this we've covered in the webinars, and a lot of this is also stuff that we've been promoting on the blog and those type of things. So I think it's just a good update as well on where we are with that. I see there is some confusion in terms of who's presenting. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Guy Jelly. I'm presenting or emceeing this webinar, and I'm going to hand over very shortly to Taryn Lee France. And Taryn is going to do most of the content for us today. Use the chat while we're going through the session. Please ask any questions there. If there's any information you need, you can ask those questions as well, and we can try and answer that as well. So I'm going to hand over quickly to Taryn. Taryn is now going to take us through the features and most of the functionality. And when it comes to our client spotlight section, you'll hear from me again, and I'll introduce our client and talk us through that. So over to you. Thanks, Taryn.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. I'm sure you all know me. Before we do get into the features that we want to showcase today, the first one being the multiple filter selection. The last time we met, we asked you a question around who your success manager is and if you knew who they were. And now I've got a question for you on have you met with them in the last quarter? So hopefully since we last met, you all now know who your SM is. You had a chance to meet and understand what their role and how they meant to support you. And I'd like to just see if you've had a chance to meet with them in the last quarter. So it seems like some of you are still unsure of who your SM is. That's important for us to know. Having an SM is a value-added service, and it's available to all PPO clients at no additional charge. So working with your SM, their role is really to make sure that you are making the use of all PPO has to offer in terms of features. So for those of you that indicate that you're not sure who your SM is, that's perfect. We will definitely reach out after the session to make sure you know who that person is going forward and how they're meant to support you. Okay, so we've got 7 responses, but a lot more of you. I'm going to make the assumption that most of you know who your SM is if you haven't responded, but of course, please feel free to drop a message in the chat as well if you don't know and you can't access the Menti poll. Moving along, I'm going to jump straight into the new features. So I'm going to use my instance of PPO that I've got available. And for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to be Jane Branch. So a lot of you, this is all familiar to you. You would see your project list or any list page. I'm going to use the project list to talk through the multiple filter selection. So filters has been something that we've been adding improvements to over the last year or so. It started with a date filter that wasn't previously available. So just as a recap, so let's say you have got a required end date as an example, or last update date. So maybe let's use the last update date. Then we introduced the filter option for you to be able to.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I think somebody took over your screen.
Darren, you're
Somebody.
showing the Menti, you got the Mentimeter stuff going up over there. If we can.
Okay, I think somebody else did that.
There you go.
Can you all see? There we go.
There you go. Good stuff.
Okay. Okay, so you can all see it again?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so last update is an example of a date field, which you can use to filter on updates to projects in the last week, last year, last month. So that was an additional filter option that was available to you, being able to filter on any date-driven fields, things like required end dates, registration date, log dates. Then we went a step further and we gave you the ability to filter on data quality, as an example, which is a RAG field, or project health, which is also a RAG field. So now you'd be able to look at projects where the health is red or amber. Now, as I'm sure you're all noticing, that there are additional filter options for you. So I'm going to start with using an example of phase. So you would have been used to being able to have a one-to-one filter selection. You wouldn't have been able to say, show me all my projects that are initiating and planning, because I want to see what my pipeline is looking like. In order to do that, you would have had to go and create a filter, and you would have had 2 filter items in your filter setup. That would no longer be required. As you can see, I've been able to select 2 separate custom list values, and I can apply that. By doing that, I have now 2 options in my filter, and I can now see all the projects that are either in initiating or planning. You will also notice that at the top, there's an include or exclude toggle. So I'm going to show you what the purpose of that is. So let's say you wanted to see all projects, but you want to exclude projects in a particular phase. So I'm going to exclude projects in benefit tracking, which will now show me all of my projects excluding the selection that I had made. You will also see in the phase at the top, it's saying that I'm excluding benefit tracking. So now working with your filters is a lot easier than it was before. There's no need to create complicated filters, shared filters or personal filters, you can use the fields to filter using either the include or exclude toggle, as well as applying or clearing and making your multiple filter selection. So it's also important to note that this that I'm showing to you is not only available on custom list fields, it's also available on employee list fields or RAG fields. As an example, if I wanted to see projects where the health is amber or red, I can apply that, and now I can see my list of projects where the health is either amber or red. Say I wanted to see projects where the project manager is either Peter or Mary. I'd be able to say, show me all the projects where the project manager is Mary or it is Peter. And I can apply that and my list will filter accordingly. So this is something that is in beta within our environment, but it's likely something that you will see in the next 2 weeks or so. So look out for this. As always, our blog will promote any new enhancements. If you're not subscribed, I'm going to direct you very quickly to that. If you go to the blog URL, I'll paste it in the chat as well, just in case you don't have it. On the right-hand side is the sign-up page. All we need is your email address, your first name, and your last name. We release new features probably weekly, and we don't spam you. Promise. It's one email a week, and it is directly related to any kind of product news that would have been released in that past week. So keep your eye out for product news related to that feature, and you will then get all the content, FAQs, knowledge base articles that'll guide you on how to use it. Okay, so that's the multiple filter selection. And now I'm going to quickly touch on the new homepage. Maybe not so quickly, but this is probably one of our biggest features that will have the most notable user impact for this year. What this feature is moving away from, or it's going to attempt to move away from what you used to in terms of inputs, where you punch in data via your ads and edits and updates, and then to see the result of that through your reports and dashboard outputs. The homepage has always been designed to focus you on your exception-based items and your to-do list. So your calendars, your my lists, it's all user-specific. So it's focused on you as a user, items that are assigned to you, your lists that you've created, your calendar that visualizes event-based items in terms of risks, tasks, issues, etc. And now the homepage, the way in which we've upgraded it, is meant to allow you to do that, see those exception-based items, as well as work with those items from one page. What you used to is your standard dashboard, and you'll still have that. So when this is deployed to you again in the next week or two, you'll still get your dashboard view that you used to. But in addition to that, you will have a user group specific view that is linked to you as a user. So as an example, if you are a project team member, I'll show you an example of your homepage that you'll see. Okay. I've got kicked out there. Just give me 1 second to log in again. Username and password. So in my homepage view, so as you log in, first page you see in PPO is always your home page. In addition to that, you'll now get your dashboard, and as a team member, what you will be able to visualize is projects where you have been assigned as a team member, and you can quickly see that. So you've got 3 projects you assigned to. You know you've got 6 open tasks. You've got two open risks that you're managing. You've got two open issues. You can see the sum of the planned hours on these three projects that you need to work with. What you'll also notice is that the use of all of these widgets that we've been rolling out has been extended. As an example, you've got a Gantt view on resource allocations data using your start and end date. Your Gantt view has been in the past limited to a task view. The Gantt view can now be extended to using start and end dates for projects from your project list and visualizing that in a Gantt view. This example is visualizing a Gantt of my resource allocations using the start and end date of that allocation data. The interactive Gantt where you can zoom in or out applies as well. So you can use a Gantt widget on your home page. So this, as you see, focuses on your open tasks. So you'd want to have access to see those open tasks, and the widgets that you used to is now available on that view as well. So this is specific to a team member type view, still focuses them on the exception-based items, the to-do list, but it does bring more of a visual view to that data. In the past, your homepage would have been lists, and you would have seen a risk list and an issue list. But now you've got your key metrics that tells you your data. So I would very quickly see I've got quite a few tasks that are overdue. I can see the average variance against my tasks, and it allows me to update the data from this view page. So I could go into a multiple edit mode from my list, click on my multiple edits, and update my data without having to navigate too far away or to a different list. So those is some of the things that is important to note. How this is changing, so you will have the ability to edit or customize your views. What you'll see, I mean, this is of the first iteration of it. So what you would expect at some point in the future is being able to print these views or generate a PDF of these views if you wanted. It's also a step for us moving into a different direction with the way in which you work with your project view page. So this, as you can see at the top, are all referred to as tabs. So as a user, project team member, it would be your first tab. Your dashboard would be your second tab, but you would also have the ability to introduce an additional tab. So as you see, this new tab that I've created starts with a blank canvas. So this canvas allows you to introduce panels and introduce widgets into these panels. So adding a widget is easy using the widgets that you all used to working with on your list page. These would all look familiar to you, your bar charts, your boards, your calendars, the Gantt that I just mentioned, donuts, table, also known as your list widget. So having a list of data, tree map, and key metric. So these as tabs is now available on your homepage. We'll attempt to make the adoption of this a lot more easy for you by still giving you your standard dashboard view that you used to in your first tab, and your team member or your user group specific tab in addition to your standard dashboard. I just want to touch on some things that would be useful to you depending on the role that you play. So as an example for PPO administrators, your role would primarily be to focus on the performance of the portfolio. You'll see that you can very quickly access the full portfolio, and you might want to be able to see key metrics related to that portfolio. Working with your homepage allows you to filter the data as you're working with it. And as you're filtering the data, your key metric information would change. If you no longer need to manage those filters, you get rid of them. And there you see all those changes that you can make, like you would on your list page, is now available for
Can I
you.
go there?
Okay. I thought that was for me. Okay, so as a PPO administrator, very quickly identifying how many red projects you have, projects that have data quality that's not green, across the portfolio, how many overdue risks do you have? How many overdue issues? So that's very quickly accessible without you having to navigate to reports and dashboards. Your exception-based reporting, where you would have gone to either your monitoring dashboard or looked at data completeness or data quality reports, is now very quickly available to you. You can see your project health by project manager, data quality by project manager, governance by project manager. I mentioned the Gantt view, looking at your portfolio Gantt, seeing the start and end dates of projects visually and being able to zoom in and zoom out. So that would be very useful to a PPO administrator, PMO controller, or PMO analyst type role. I've touched on the team member. There's another useful feature with the team member that I'll demonstrate to you on a different dashboard that I've got set up here, and it will touch on a new feature that you'll most likely see towards the end of this year, or depending on timing, maybe early next year. Hopefully by now you all have worked with your board views. So the interactive board view is part 2 of the board view feature. What this board view would allow you to do, even directly from your home page, is to do inline editing. So as an example, I have an item here. You would notice I've got a pencil icon here. And what I really want to do is to help with managing the burn down. I want to update that I've just got 1 hour left on my work item, and I can save it. What you would have done in the past is you would have drilled through to the item. You would have taken to a view page on that item, and you would have needed to click. As you would have noticed, I didn't need to do that. Directly from my board view, I can update without having those 2 or 3 extra clicks, make my changes, and I can save. So that is now available to you. The next thing that will come with this feature, so I mean, if your board view has been configured on your home page, you'd be able to drag and drop. So as an example, in the next sprint that I've got a new item that's here. It hasn't really been groomed well. I don't know the estimated hours or estimates to complete, and based on a discussion, I've decided that this item I am actually going to reject it or cancel it. So I can just move it along there, setting my status to rejected, and I dragged it all the way through, and it's now set this item to cancelled. There's no need for me to drill through, update it, change the status. I can drag it all the way through to the workflow column that is applicable, which is now done, and it's updated that item for me. So this, if you've configured, so as I've mentioned, your views, your homepage views is made up of widgets. So if you've introduced board widgets onto your homepage, you'd be able to do exactly that as I've just done, all from your homepage without navigating to various lists. So that's one useful feature of the new homepage. Another one that I just want to quickly touch on, for some of you that don't engage as much with your executives. I know for a lot of the clients that we work with, some of them don't have the executives engaging with the PPO data as much as they'd like. If you do have executives that are working with PPO, having a executive specific homepage makes it really easy for them to focus their attention. So as an executive, you're seeing all the projects that you either sponsor or own. You can see where they are in terms of status and phase. You can very quickly identify who are your project managers that are delivering projects for you. What's the average variances for the portfolio of projects you're sponsoring or owning? At-risk benefits, because that's really what sponsors care about, whether benefits are at risk, are there red risks we should be managing or I should be aware of, are there pending scope changes for my attention or pending decisions, and I can also see that portfolio view and access the project list all from one page. If you are a client that makes use of workflow and that's approvals for either documents, scope changes, time entries, doesn't matter. You would have access to your approval list where you can approve all from your home page, as well as see the demand items for a sponsor or owner in that capacity. So the idea, hopefully you're all seeing it, is that from your home page, you would access and work with the data from this one view. There's no limitation to the number of tabs you can have. So as a project manager, the one that we give you, you might decide you want to have an additional one. You can introduce an additional one. There's no limitation to the number of widgets you have available on your homepage. So you can add to your existing homepage and make use of any of the widgets that are available. And when I talk widgets, I'm talking your donuts, your calendars, your boards, etc. So that's basically your your new configurable homepage. If you're a team member, you will get your dashboard view as well as your user group specific tab. If you're a project executive and you access PPO, you'll have the standard dashboard view that you're used to, as well as the project executives one. So it's going to be user group specific. And that's it for the homepage. I am going to hand over to you guys just to give a quick intro for Monia.
Thanks, Taryn. Before I jump over and introduce Monia, are there any other questions left on the customizable homepage? If there are, you're more than welcome to pop them into the chat. We'll try and address them there. I think Taryn mentioned this, and we're very excited about the feature, but we're also very nervous about it. It's probably the single biggest user impact change that we have made on the product this year, definitely, but I would go as far as maybe the last 2 to 3 years. The homepage is obviously that page you get to every single day, and the homepage, while there's been very minor upgrades, has looked very similar for a very long time. So we're excited about what it offers in terms of the way forward. We've been using it ourselves for probably 6 months now already, but it does have a big change. I've got team members, Taryn's in one of them, who has about 14 tabs for everything, and then I've got other team members who have one tab with 4 things on it. So it's very flexible, really up to the user to decide how they want to use PPO, what they want to do with it. But I think it is something that is going to have an impact on your users. So we're here to support you. Taryn hasn't mentioned all the timelines around when it's coming and those type of things, but I think just bear in mind that if there are questions you have or concerns or challenges, please reach out. We're here to help you. We're going to get this feature out this side of the year because we've got a bunch of exciting stuff that we want to work on early next year, and we want to put this out there so the user base can start adopting it. Okay, if there are questions, please pop it in the chat. I'll try and answer them as we go through this, as and how I get the chance, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end as well. For those of you that have joined previous webinars as well, what we do is we like to spotlight one of our clients. We always get asked every day as a success manager. I'm a success manager of a number of clients, and I get asked almost every day when I engage with the clients, how are other people doing this? What are other organizations doing? How do they solve this problem? How do we compare to some of these others? You all know that we, under confidentiality agreements with each client, so we can't show you what other clients are doing or, those type of things. But we use this client spotlight feature in these webinars to ask an existing client to come and present what they've done for a specific requirement, pain point, need that they may have using PPO functionality. A lot of these are not latest features. They're features that have been around for a year or two. In the case of today, is probably 3, 4, 5 maybe. But it really then just gives an opportunity for other organizations to see how clients are using it. And you don't just hear from us, you hear from actual PPO clients. So those of you that have unique use cases, we'll contact you from time to time and ask you to share it if you're willing to. Monia works for BankServe Africa. This piece of work was actually done probably about 2 years ago now, if I remember correctly. Monia wasn't part of the initial team that did that, but is today the PPO champion at BankServe. So she's graciously accepted or offered to share this session with us. BankServe Africa, as I'm sure you may know, is a financial services organization, has a fairly extensive data set that they work with and set of strategic projects. So Monia is going to do most of the presentation from her PowerPoint. We're not going to delve straight into the product. I think there's too many risks and data issues there when looking at the BankServe data. But I'm going to hand over to Monia now, who's going to just briefly talk through this specific feature or function in PPO. If this is something you're interested in or something that you can't see on PPO today or not sure how to do it, reach out to us. You'll get an email from us after the session. You can respond to that. You can contact your SM, and all of what you see today that Monia is going to discuss, we're able to activate for you if it hasn't already been done. So Monia, thanks very much for joining us. I know Taryn's going to flip through the slides, but just thanking you for your time today for sharing this with our other existing PPO users and clients.
Thanks, Guy. Afternoon, everyone. So just quickly, we're going through the resource allocation functionality. This is at a very high level. You'll also notice that if you do have this, that your instance might look different to ours. We're covering our background, reasons for using resource allocation, time capture, resource reports, and resource dashboards. In our background, we're going to go through our problem statement, approach, outcome, and challenges and experience on this journey. Our problem statement is organizational resource planning, or ORP, is crucial for the success of an enterprise project office, EPO, for several reasons. Effective resource allocation. An EPO is responsible for overseeing and managing various projects within an organization. Without proper resource planning, there's a risk of over-allocating and under-allocating resources to different projects. Optimized workforce utilization. ORP enables the EPO to identify the skills and expertise required for different projects and allocate the right people to the right tasks. This prevents situations where employees are either overworked or underutilized, leading to improved job satisfaction and productivity. Budget management. Resource planning is closely tied to budgeting. By effectively managing resources, the EPO can better control project costs, reduce unnecessary spending, and allocate funds to critical areas. This helps in maintaining financial control over projects and the organization. Risk mitigation. When resources are allocated properly, it reduces the risk of the project delays, quality issues, and missed deadlines. ORP allows the EPO to identify potential resource constraints and take proactive measures to mitigate risks associated with resource shortages. Realistic planning and expectations. Accurate resource planning allows for more realistic project timelines and expectations. This prevents setting unrealistic goals that could lead to burnout, project failure, or dissatisfaction among team members. Our approach as part of the EPMO's demand resource and capacity management planning, it required all PMs to allocate resources to their projects on PPO. Challenges encountered. Organizational and cultural issues within the organization. Recapturing of actual time was a challenge. Allocated staff not capturing their time at all or within the required period of time. Poor planning can lead to unrealistic expectations, scope creep, and changing priorities, which can result in resource over-allocation or under-allocation. Inaccurate estimation may cause resource gaps or surpluses, impacting the resource performance and budget. Time capture. After resource allocation, your resources need to capture the actual time spent on the project or initiative and then submit it for approval. Approvals are determined within your team or department. This is just a screenshot of what our time capture looks like. The output of the first two processes are your reports and dashboards. The report the PM would use is your actual versus planned report. This shows who has captured their time for the required period as well as the variance between planned and actual. Another report that can be used by the PM is the project costing report. This will give you an overview of the cost situation on your project as it includes your staff resources. Depending on how your instance is set up, as the actual hours are captured, they are pulled through into your costs and are generated as automated staff costs. This is cumulative for the period. When trying to determine demand versus resource availability, the resource dashboard can be used. As you can see here, this is self-explanatory. It shows planned versus actual per division within the company. Once again, this is instance specific. This part of the dashboard is over a 3-month period and shows how things change from period to period in terms of time capturing. The grayed out items on the left are project names. What is showing you are planned versus actual resources resource hours by project. Here you can see that while there are actual hours in some instances, there are no planned hours reflected in others. Here we're showing staff members per project, i.e. how many staff members have been allocated to a project. This is done in your resource planning section, which is part of your process. On this one, we're showing you resource demand, your most allocated and skills in demand. So on the left column shows the staff members that have been allocated to more than 3 projects, and on the right, we speak to the skills demand per project. That's it. The outcome. This now gave the EPMO an opportunity to better understand which resources were allocated to which project and the associated capacity used and available. In essence, the outcome of resource planning is a well-structured and organized approach to utilizing resources, resulting in improved operational performance, better project outcomes, and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances effectively.
Thanks a lot, Monia, for sharing this. So just to sum up what Monia's covered is the resource planning side of PPO is what bank servers use to understand their resource capacity, demand, when they can start projects, who's overloaded, if they've got too many projects and it's using too many resources at the same time, how do they spread that out, those type of things. The second element to it is bank servers also do timesheets, so they're able to actually see based on what was initially planned in terms of who should be working on what, where did they actually spend their time, which then gives them the picture to say, are we bad at planning? Did things happen that weren't planned for? And it shows you some indication of the disjoint between what was planned and what's actually happening. Over and above that, both the resource planning cost at BankServe goes into the cost section of the project and helps manage the labor cost of the project, the plan and the forecast. And then the timesheet time goes in and manages the labor cost of the actuals. So the project manager doesn't have to do a whole bunch of gymnastics and Excel spreadsheets and all the rest of it. By using the planning data on the resource allocation and then using the timesheet data, the actual side of it, the labor cost of the projects is being managed and maintained as well. So a huge amount of effort that used to be done in spreadsheets and offline is now automated and done in PPO, giving them the benefit of all the resource capacity planning stuff, as well as the labor cost planned and actual coming out of that. You don't have to use timesheets to get the full picture. You can just do the resource capacity planning, and then you'll see the full resource utilization, where some of the bottlenecks are, what the resource labor costs are, if you're doing labor costing, and what your forecasts are. But that's the sort of journey that BankServe went on. First with the resource capacity planning, then the timesheets, and the next step there in terms of all the reporting. Okay, back to you, Taryn. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So the next feature that I'm going to quickly touch on, this is one that we did communicate. So I just want to submit, I timed out, is our BI API improvement. Hopefully, if you subscribe to the blog, you would have seen it in one of our recent small changes updates. The BI API is a feature that we introduced probably earlier this year or late last year, and it's for those PMOs that have the need to expose their reports and dashboards to external users or external MEM stakeholders. They're not users of PPO, and you might have some very unique reporting requirements from your different stakeholders. So you've chosen to build your own reports and dashboards using the BI API. That's an admin feature that's available under the administration menu. You got access to your business intelligence API. And the change that we've made is the ability for you to filter the data once you've set up your API key. Filtering the data is very important just for general usage, as well as working with the data in your BI tool of choice. So once your API key has been created, you would first then indicate the entities for which you want to export the data. So as an example, if I choose projects, you'll notice that you apply a global filter by default. So what that means is that your archived projects, your completed cancelled projects that are no longer active is not included in that export, that daily export that happens. So if you don't need that data, please make sure that if you've already created your API key, if you don't need to access archived information, remember to go and apply that global filter so that that exports doesn't take into account archived information. So that feature is now available, and it's available across all entities. So whether you choose issues, risks, etc., the global filter toggle is available for you. Okay, so moving on, I want to quickly talk to you about some use cases. We promised that as we introduce these new features to you guys, we would always come back and give you some indication of how you could make use of these features. It's not immediately clear always on how you can make the best use of these features. So the one that we're going to spotlight today is the calendar widget. Not everyone is always clear on how the calendar widget can be used, and I'm going to talk you through some of the use cases or how we've seen some of our clients making use of the calendar widget. What you guys received by default is showing calendar events for my tasks, my risks, my issues, and of course, public holidays. So that was the standard default that was made available when we deployed this feature. But how we've seen this being used since is for the PMO, as an example, you may have monthly PRC meetings that happen on the first Friday of every month. Nothing stops you from creating a global event that's applied for everyone. PPO admins can do this under the widget configuration. And here you can see that I can very easily see when monthly PRC meetings are happening. And as a project manager, that tells me that I should make sure that my project status dashboards are accurate by no later than the Thursday. If I navigate to future months, I know it's happening there on the 1st of December. I can see where it's happening in January. I can see where it's happening in February. So showing as an event your monthly PRC meetings available to everyone would be very useful. Another option for that is for PMOs or clients that are making use of timesheets, and communicating your timesheet submission deadlines is important, because if you do charge outs for projects and you need to have your costings in, and maybe you are not an internally focused PMO and you're a professional services type PMO, and having all timesheet data is critical to your invoicing and making sure all your labor costs are reported accurately, and you need all time in. Showing when timesheets deadlines are due is also another type of event which you could add to your calendar. So yeah, you can see months into the future, we know where our timesheet deadline dates are. So those are two use cases. Another one that we're seeing a lot more of is, and now especially with the end of year period coming up, is showing the leave for your team. So if you are in a specific department or you want to see leave for the project office resources, I can very quickly see that. And you could choose to do this using either your task data or your resource allocations data. So I've used the resource allocations. The process that gets applied is that your resource allocations gets captured against the leave management project. And I can see in the month of November, there's Alan that will be on leave over that period. If I go into December, I can see there's Tracy, there's Ravi, there's Jane, and Jane is unavailable for the full month of January. So those are three use cases. And I think I've got one more to share. As a project manager, maybe you're not always on top of your planned milestones, and you want to make sure that you're on top of those and you're keeping track of milestone deadlines or milestone plan starts and end dates that you've committed to specific for your projects. You can see in green, I've got my milestones for my projects depicted on my calendar. While these are tasks assigned to me in this turquoise color, I can also see upcoming milestones for across all my projects showed in in green. So this is the calendar widgets. I know not all clients have adopted full use of the calendar, but hopefully some of these use cases will spark your PPO administrators to add either default events or events that you can set up yourself. Adding event is here from your gear icon settings, and you can see these are some of the ones that I've now set up. And that's it. Questions?
Well done, Taryn. For those of you that have been on a couple of these this year, we've always overrun. So we tried very hard this month to underrun and give you guys some time for Q&A at the end. So we've got about 10 minutes left. There are the webinars scheduled for next year already. So, Taryn, I don't know if you've got a specific slide for that. Maybe just let's share it quickly.
I do, but I can also show it on the webinar, on the website. And I'll post the link in the chat as well.
Yeah, so our first webinar next year is scheduled for the 13th of March. Just a reminder, we do these on a quarterly basis. They're available to all clients and users and partners of PPO. You can invite your entire user base if you want to. There's no limit to how many people. We just have spent a hell of a lot of time doing a lot of product features. And what we found was that users weren't always aware of all of these features. So we brought this webinar series in late last year as a mechanism to help organizations stay in touch. Those are all the dates there. You can actually already start to put them in your diary and book your seat on them now. The content of each webinar, we obviously work on closer to the time as the product pipeline gets developed and we have new features and we identify some of the case studies like Monya shared with us today. But you can already secure those dates in your diary. We've avoided any public holidays or any long weekends or any type of those things. We've tried to keep them to the middle of the week. We've tried to keep them to the middle of the day. Remember, we have clients across the world from Sydney all the way through to San Francisco. So we've tried to make sure that we cover that as best as possible. These are also recorded, so you will receive the recording. And once again, you can obviously share that with your team. If you want specific customer engagement sessions to go through this with your specific team, we're more than welcome to do this. This obviously helps us get to a lot of clients quite quickly, but we know a lot of PMOs like to come and see this themselves, and then the next week they contact us to join their PMO session on Friday and take their team through it. So we're happy to do that. Just bear in mind the features that Taryn showed you today, we've given you a pre-warning. Normally, in most cases, the features are already deployed. In this case, we felt these two features are so big and could have such an impact on your users. We wanted to have this session today before the actual deployment. Okay, so Taryn's going to take you through a question or two here, and then any other questions that pop up, you're more than welcome to type it in the chat. I'll address it and answer it. So in the meantime, Taryn, back to you to do the.
So for the office stands, we did the same at the last webinar. If you'd like a follow-up session to demonstrate these features to your users, so with your SM, please feel free, pop your email address in now, and we will reach out and have a dedicated session for your users if you'd like us to go through the features that were presented today. And then I've got one final question for you. We would love for you to please rate our webinar today. So if you found value from the session, if you could please just let us know and rate the session. I think you would have got the question up on your side. Let me just refresh if you don't. Give me 1 second. There we go. If you wouldn't mind just rating the value of the session today.
Taryn always gets nervous with this because the amount of leave she's allowed to take in December is based directly on the results she gets from her webinars.
Too late. I'm out of here on the first. I think it's 7 weeks.
Who approved that?
We have a ridiculous 30-day leave policy at PPO. So Taryn puts it all together and disappears forever. So for any of Taryn's clients, we feel sorry for you.
They're all good for your warning.
Okie dokie. If there's any questions, please pop them up. Try and do the Mentimeter survey here, it jokes aside, it does help us know where we are, and if we do get a bad rating, then we do look and say, how can we improve that and what can we do? We know you're all giving up of your own time here to be with us today. While this is our key, that what we do every day, we know you guys all have a million other things that you need to be doing. So we appreciate the time that you give us, but give us a good rating, or give us a fair rating, should I rather say, and we can take it from there. The Mentimeter code, for those of you that were asking for it earlier, there was a lady who asked for it earlier. So there it is again on the screen, 48786757. That does change every time, so don't record that. It's something that you'll get every time. But every time there is a question like this, we change this based on actually feedback from a previous webinar where you've got the Mentimeter, the URL and the user code there. Okay, there are one or two hands up. I don't want to get too much chaos. We don't mute this, so we respect everybody's ability to mute themselves. But those that had their hands up, you're more than willing to unmute yourself and ask a question. I'll try and answer it. If those of you don't want to unmute and ask it, just type it in the chat, and I'll read the question out and try and answer it as well in the meantime. I think it was Lebu that had her hand up, but it came up too quickly for me to catch the name. Lebu, if it was you that asked the question, you're still muted, so I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
it was me, Guy. Hi, everyone. Now I just wanted to ask about the meter. How do I rate? Because I can't see anything here.
Thanks, Lebu. Good question for those that maybe haven't used this before. So you can do it from within Teams. There's a little button called Mentimeter on that toolbar where you see the chat and all the rest of it. If you don't want to do that, and some people that dial in from a device or not a Teams installed on your PC, you can just go to the website, menti.com, that you see there, menti.com. It's going to ask you for a code. You type in that code you can see on the screen there, 48786757. And you should see this question being asked there you can do it on your phone or anything, and then you can just give us an answer. That code is unique to this set of questions that we're asking today, and when Taryn gets to the next question, although I think this is the last one for today, the next one would pop up. So once you've entered what I always do when we use these internally is I have it on my cell phone, menti.com, I put in the code, and then as Taryn runs through these or whoever's presenting, I can simply answer that. A very good app to use for project team members as well if you're doing those type of things. Okay, I keep saying 4878. I can't believe that, Victor. I'm a reformed accountant. That's my problem. 58786757. So.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks, Leben. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any more in the chat. Some comments there thanking us. Thank you very much, all of you. Okay, here's some resources for those of you that are not blog subscribers. Please, we don't spam you. PPO doesn't do Black Friday specials, and we don't offer you fancy things like buy one and get two. We don't do any of that nonsense. We send you one newsletter every Thursday. It includes the latest product news, and it includes our upcoming events. These webinars, free bootcamp training, those type of things. So sign up to the blog. As I said, that's all we use it for. We're just trying to make sure that as we deploy all these features and our development team spends all their hard-earned time on this, that you're aware of it. These other items that were covered today, the configurable home page, the My Calendar widget, and the resource plan and utilization that Monya from Bankserve covered, those are all available on our knowledge base article. They're all there. The videos of the feature, the screenshots of it, how it works. For those of you that maybe we went too fast and you need to just go back to it, or you want to share it with a team and say, hey guys, I think we should be using this PPO calendar for our PMO rituals and our steer comms and our cutoffs and those type of things, share those links with the broader team. Those are part of our support portal, and they're accessible to you over there. Some of these are articles that would have been in some of those previous blogs. So had you received those blog articles, you would have read them there. Okay, Deepa and Ben, thank you very much. Kamotso, good to see you again. Thank you, Shirlene. We're going to stick around for another 4 or 5 or 6 minutes, but for those of you that do have a back-to-back meeting, we actually delivered this webinar today on time. And then as Taryn mentioned, that's the webinar for the next one. You can get to it from the PPO website. You can get to it from within PPO. So if you're in PPO and you look at your support icon, top right-hand corner, there's actually a section there that says at the bottom PPO webinars, and you can get there. And then the URL that Taryn shared. So We've tried to make it as easy as possible, give you 5 different ways to get to it. The date is fixed. The content we'll still determine. The development team already has a bunch of pipeline items that some of them have already started working on. I think the interactive Kanban board that you saw, I don't know if there's anyone from my clients on this call. You know, you are, if I talk to you, you were a beta client of that feature, but that interactivity on the Kanban, being able to drag and drop the items around, being able to update directly from it. So that's something that's definitely coming up, and we'll probably cover in that March webinar in some detail, maybe a case study or two. If you are using PPO in a unique way and you'd love to share your story, please tell us as well. You know, we do approach clients because we know our clients use the product, but if you've got something to share, please let us know. We'll have a quick chat to you. Myself and Taryn will meet with you, go through it, and then help prepare you for the session today. Monia, thank you very much for giving up of your time. Monia was going to do the previous one, but we had technical issues there. So Monia luckily came back today to share that with us. So thank you very much. For the rest of you, thank you very much for your PPO support. It's been a very busy year, probably one of our busiest years for a long time, which is why Taryn has got 7 weeks worth of leave. While Taryn does 7 weeks leave, the rest of us will keep everything ticking over. But from a product point of view, as I mentioned up front, we're not going to do any more major product releases this side of the year. These features that Taryn demonstrated today, we're going to get those released. And then we're going to go into a little bit of a slowdown on releasing. The development team is still working on features, but those will only get pushed out to the user base early next year. We don't generally like to make too many product changes post late November, and definitely not December and January, because those are times where other people are away and other things are happening. So we try and avoid big deployments in those. We'll continue to upgrade PPO. We'll continue to maintain PPO. The support desk is available all the way through the festive period. But those are, from a product point of view, those are the big last changes we're going to be pushing out this side of the year. But I thank everyone for joining us today. I thank all of you for your ongoing support for PPO. I thank my team. I know it's been a very tough year, a very hard year. I think we've worked hard this year, probably harder in the product space than in previous years. And then just have a blessed festive period. If anyone's traveling, travel safely. And for most of you, we'll see you in our regular interactions we have with all our clients. If you're just a webinar attendee, we'll see you again, hopefully on the 13th of March, to share some of the new stuff. Thanks, Taryn, for all your hard work in the product space and these webinars. Finish up what you need to finish up, and then enjoy your 7 weeks leave. Good stuff. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.